At home with a lifetime of stories and songs, people we've met and the places we've gone. Along the way found where and how we belong. At home with a lifetime of stories and songs. Welcome to more Songs and Stories from Home, podcasts that give voice to songs with stories and stories with songs written and being written over the course of a lifetime, often illuminating the journey we all make, together and alone, finding our way home. Concert for the Class of 65, Part 5. Some years ago, Robert Fulghum told us that all he really needed to know, he learned in kindergarten. In writing songs and choosing stories to share in the concert for the Class of 65, I realized things that mattered most to me in high school have continued to be things that matter today. As I explained to my classmates, in high school I knew those things as God, music, girls, and football. And over time, I came to know them as faith, hope, love, and family, however we choose to define those words. They inspire and guide me when lost. They find me and lead me home. And then I sang songs that talk about what those words continue to mean to me. The first verse of the song that talks about God and faith says that when I was 21, I had faith in God. I had faith in my country and all she was. I had faith in my family and faith in myself. And when you've got all that, you don't need much else. When faith is strong, hope is high, joy abounds, and love abides. The song goes on to describe the loss of that faith, then renewed and discovered in new forms. To illustrate music or hope, the classmates that I first sang with in high school, we called ourselves the Castaways. We sang one more time on that stage where we'd sung for the first time 60 years earlier. Talk about a special treat. And then when it came to girls or love, I explained that serious relationships that I'd had into my 30s, all of them happened to be with girls or women from our high school. The last part of the song saying that I surely have regrets, things that I would change, and yet somehow feels that it all has led me to this cherished place. On the road to finding out, could not see then what I see now. All I needed to be found back in my hometown. And then finally talking about football or family, I sang a song for my high school football teammates who were at the reunion, dedicating it to those no longer with us. A song called Band of Brothers. Running out on that field as kids. A band of brothers come together, become this. Band of Brothers. So we're not done yet, but we're closing in. So then I was thinking of my story in high school. And so besides having this family secret, I had undiagnosed dyslexia. So I think like Pravatsky, he was the student athlete. He had some award at the end. I didn't have a chance for the student part, but I got the athlete. I had the athlete thing, but I realized that what I'd done is I had spent my whole high school career. I could be wrapped up in 4 words: God, music, girls, and football. So, and then I thought, that's not bad. That's not bad. In fact, it's damn good. And then I realized, I spent my whole life doing that. But instead, it's become faith, hope, love, and family. So here's that song that introduces it. Faith is for my wife, Pat, who, she's back home loving up the grandkids. Faith, hope, love, and family, these inspire and guide me when lost. They find me and lead me home. Faith, what we believe in, hope, what leads us strong. Love, what we hold most dearly, family, what keeps us strong. Faith, hope, love, family, these inspire and guide me. When lost, they find me and lead me home. And you are where I leave from, who I come back to. You are what I lean on, you who makes each day brand new. Faith, hope, love, family, these inspire and guide me. When lost, they find me and lead me home. Faith, hope, love, and family, these inspire and guide me. When lost, they find me and lead me home. So, God, let's see, faith. So, it's been quite a journey for me over the last 60 years. In 1969, so I'd found out in June from my dad that he'd been in a mental institution when I was born, and everything was kind of thrown into a top hat, and kind of that digging out from that. And then I was singing at an All City Young Life meeting in Seattle, and a guy came up to me and he said, "Don't sing when Johnny comes marching home." Well, I got so pissed off that I sang The Impossible Dream, dedicated to everybody that went to Canada, and stomped out of there and never went to church for 40 years. Still there. And at least to worship. I went, but I'd go with family or friends, Pat Sands and I, when Sands was, anyway, long story. It's been my really good fortune to have been able to travel the world, to have visited. I've been drawn to Shinto shrines and to Buddhist temples and to Hindu shrines and temples and mosques and then to churches. And I just love spending time there. And I realized, I told my stepkids, I said that those are all places where I feel at home, but the church is where I'm really at home. And then 11 years ago, I was at a brother's full rehearsal, and one of my singing partners said, "Well, yeah, some woman from my church is just taking a church in Port Ludlow." And I said, "Well, great." And it was around Easter, and I said, "Well, fine, that sounds good." I thought nothing of it. Then I came home, and my neighbor had put down this beautiful flower and said, "You're invited to come to church for Easter." I thought, oh man, tugboat, I gotta go. And I did. It was the first time in 40 years that I'd been there to worship and just myself. And so, and I'm asking the person next to me, I said, "Well, what are you doing here? And she said, well, I'm driving all the way from Port Townsend, and that's interesting. That's a long way to come. And she said, yeah, we had a little kerfuffle at our other church, and they're kind of talking about not welcoming everybody. Oh, really? Well, that's, politics of religion. And so I said, well, is this a God doesn't make junk church? She said, yeah, that's the one. And I said, oh, I'm good. That's good. And so, but then I took communion, and all of a sudden that door I'd slammed shut, it opened up a little bit. And I thought, this is great. I love this. And it didn't come back in the same way, or it felt the same way, but to have access to all those wonderful feelings about what we do about faith, about what we learn about faith, and the importance of faith. Because of faith, love, hope, and love, I think love, yes, it's the greatest, but faith may be the most important. When I was 21, I had faith in God. I had faith in my country and all she was. And I had faith in my family. I had faith in myself. And when you got all that, you don't need much else. Faith is strong, hope is high, joy abounds, and love abides. Was it just a year later, and the country's still at war? Leaders are lying or they're dying. I can't find God anymore. And I learn a family secret. I am feeling deceived. I lose faith in myself. I could not believe. Faith is strong, hope is high, joy abounds, and love abides. Now all these years later, and the world is still ablaze, but I look deep inside. I can feel the faith. I got faith in you. I got faith in me. And I think we're going to make it. But we got to believe. Faith is strong. Hope is high. Joy abounds. Love abides. Faith is strong. So hope, music. Well, please welcome back on stage for the first time in 59 years, the original Castaways, Joe Allison, Joyce Palmer, Dan Eaton, and myself. The original, yeah, before Dan Davenport. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Here we go. Get closer, Joe. It's a hot and dusty road, long heavy load, and the folks I meet ain't always kind. Some are bad, some are good, some have done the best they could, some have even tried to ease my troubling mind. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound. can't help but wonder where I'm bound.
And a buddy way back home, he started out to roam, and I hear he's out in Frisco Bay. And sometimes when I've had a few, his singing voice comes through, and I'm going out to see him the whole day.
And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. I can't help but wonder where I'm bound. So if you see me passing by, and you sit and you wonder why, and you think that you like to ramble too, just nail your shoes to the kitchen floor, lace them up and bar the door, and thank the stars for the roof that's over you. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. I can't help but wonder where I'm bound. No, I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. I can't help but wonder where I'm bound.
Joe, come on. We have to leave you now.
That's the Castaways. Pretty fun. Emily Dickinson says, tell the truth. Tell all the truth. But tell it slant. So, so that was hope, faith, hope. There we go. Music and love. So what I realized, all these things that when you look back at life over the last few months, I realized that the only serious relationships I had until I was in my 30s were with women from LC. So, looking back at what I've learned, all those things, twists and turns, bridges built and bridges burned, brought me to this place, back to where I started from. No kidding. Battles lost and battles won. I think about what I'd become here at the end of the day, on the road to finding out. I could not see then what I see now. All I needed to be found was back here in my hometown. Things I came to know of love, didn't learn them soon enough. And there are some I've hurt so much, hurts to this day. So yes, I surely have regrets. There's things that I would change, and yet somehow it feels that it all has led me to this cherished place, on the road to finding out. Could not see then what I see now. All I needed to be found was back here in my hometown. On the road to finding out. Could not see then what I see now. All I needed to be found back in my hometown. So my mom lived to be 98, and her email address was, well, when she had an email address, was in love with Spokane. And so after so this was it, and so I would visit, and then about, I guess it was just not long, but she died in 2020, get close, and so one of the things I did, because she was in bed a lot, and so one of the things I did is I went to Hartfield, because she wasn't that far, and which I've done before. This wasn't the only time, and so everything in this next song is true, except for the last verse. It didn't happen, but I was in town to see my mother when I stopped by at Hartfield. Once a field of dreams, now memories. And it was out there on that grass, I thought of all those things long past. Closed my eyes and God, there was a lot to see. I saw all those things we did, for sure. But most important, what I saw is who we were. We were a band of brothers, running on that field as kids, a band of brothers. Come together, become this band of brothers. And on the field high at the end zone by the goalposts, wondered where the time had gone. I think of those of us no longer here. And I lean down, I pick up some turf, and I think, for what it's worth, our memories are gonna keep them now forever near. 'Cause there are moments in our lives when things change, and nothing's ever gonna be the same. 'Cause we're a band of brothers, running on this field as kids. We're a band of brothers. Come together, become this a band of brothers. I see the field house door, it opens. A bunch of kids come running out. The coach comes up to me and says, I have to go. But I want to tell him all that happened on this field and why it mattered. But I just look at him and I look at them and I say, I know. Band of brothers, running on this field as kids, band of brothers. Come together, become this band of brothers. Band of brothers, running on this field as kids, band of brothers. Come together, become this band of brothers. Band of brothers, band of brothers. Well, so I wrote in a letter to the guys, I said, when Lonnie knew he was dying at Sue Ellen, they came to a concert, and it's I see them at that event and know that it's kind of, Lonnie's dying, and Lonnie gets close to me and he says, Pearson, do you remember? No, he said, oh, I'll never forget
when Coach Bartlett, that last game in that field house at Hartfield, and he said, "You guys are going to remember this your whole life." And he said, you remember that? I didn't have the heart to tell him. I did not a clue. But this is the important part. What I will never forget is that meeting with Lonnie, and that I wrote a letter to his son Eric, who I still believe that Lonnie and Sue Ellen named after Eric Olson, and Jack Graves named his son Eric after Eric. And another coincidence, about 6 weeks ago, a guy from rival high school, Rich Mesmer, his daughter died, and so I called Rich and I gave him my condolences, and we talked, and he said that, Jack Graves' son is hurting a little bit and needs your help. So I got his contact. So I included Eric Graves on this Band of Brothers song. So.
Thank you for listening to or watching more songs and stories from home. Come back next time for part 6 of the Class of 65, knowing you're always welcome here at home with a lifetime of stories and songs.